This story is called Sebastian's Roller Skates. This is Sebastian, and this is a cute story. Sebastian is very shy. He doesn't have much confidence. He's a child, and maybe he doesn't have too many friends, and he doesn't think he's good at anything, so he doesn't really talk much. But this is a story about what happens when Sebastian finds some roller skates. Looks like one thing that happens is he falls. Well, sometimes you fall when you have roller skates. Okay, here we go. Sebastian's and the roller skates. Sebastian didn't talk very much, even though he had a lot to say. Sebastian was shy. He was very shy. The neighbors would say, "My goodness, Sebastian, you're getting tall." And Sebastian would look at the floor, nod his head, and blush. What he wanted to say, though, was that someday he'd like to be tall enough to reach every single button in the elevator, even the ones at the very top. Here he is. There's Sebastian getting in the elevator with a neighbor. Looks like he lives in a place like New York City that has elevators. Remember the building that you guys lived in Boston? That had an elevator. I'm sure you remember pushing the buttons there. Here we go. He said, but Sebastian didn't talk very much. "How's school?" the barber would ask, wrapping Sebastian in a cape. And Sebastian would look down at his feet, blush, and whisper, "Fine." What he wanted to say, though, was that he loved geography and that he knew the names of faraway seas, tropical islands, and distant lands. When the barber was finished, he'd ask Sebastian how he liked his haircut. And in a very small voice, Sebastian would whisper, "Fine," again. What he wanted to say, though, was that if the barber made his head look like a billiard ball next time, he'd regret it. So apparently he cuts the hair too short, and it makes Sebastian's hair look like a billiard ball. Here we see, this is Sebastian getting his haircut. He's looking, see, even when he gets his haircut, he's looking down at the ground. He's just very shy. So he doesn't have much confidence. I'm sure you girls probably know somebody like that, somebody who really needs a good friend like one of you, maybe both of you. Sebastian didn't talk very much, not in the elevator, not in the barber shop, not at school. See, here he is at school. There's a teacher. I'll keep the words on the left and let you see the picture. When the teacher would ask him the name of the capital of Iceland, or the capital of Mongolia, or the capital of Burundi, Sebastian would just look down at his desk, because even though he knew the answers, he couldn't seem to say anything. Sebastian sat in the last row, right behind Esther. Esther had curly hair and the eyes the color of honey. Oh, she's a pretty girl. Sebastian liked Esther, but he'd never spoken to her. Look, there's Sebastian, and there's Esther. He likes Esther, but he's too shy to talk to her. After school, I'll let you look at the picture. There's a picture. After school, Sebastian always walked home through the park. One afternoon, he noticed a pair of old roller skates. There they are. Sebastian had never skated before, but he'd always wanted to try. He waited a few minutes, and when no one appeared, he decided to try them on. There you go. He stood up very slowly, took a careful step, and wham! Right on his rear end. Boom! He fell down. He wasn't used to skating. See, there are little wheels on roller skates. You probably have never roller skated before. It's a lot of fun. Granddaddy roller skated all the time when I was young. He tried again, and again. The same thing happened. Skating is not for me, Sebastian thought. He took off the skates, put them back on the bench, and walked home. Well, he gave up. That's too bad. The next day, did you see the picture? The next day, When Sebastian walked through the park, he saw that the skates were still there, right where he had left them. Sebastian scratched his nose. He looked left. He looked right. Nobody was around. This time he was able to stand up and stay up, but when he tried to take a step, he fell. Wham! Well, at least he'd stood up. Maybe he should take the skates home. Okay, here we go. He's going home with the skates. He thinks somebody just left them there, and he's probably right. After that, Sebastian, there he is. Sebastian went to the park every day after school to practice. He's practicing. It looks like he's not too good. See his hands wiggling and his feet are wiggling a little bit. But he's practicing because that's how you get good. And by not giving up. He always went slowly and carefully, taking tiny steps until he could grab onto something. A lamppost, a tree, a railing. Once, he even tried to grab onto someone's mustache. Oh my gosh. He was going past this man and he grabbed onto his mustache. Woo! I bet that hurt. Sebastian skated every day, and every day he got a little bit better. But after a week, he still couldn't go very far or very fast. Then he saw some other skaters gliding by, as if it were the easiest thing in the world. He sat down on the bench, sad and a little bit heartbroken. Then he went home. Yeah, he saw other skaters going by, and they were going really fast, and he goes, gosh, they're better than I am. So he was kind of sad, and he went home. Okay. He was back the next afternoon, though. He put on the skates, and then, just like always, he started to skate very slowly. First one foot, then the other. He was concentrating so hard, he didn't hear the shouting. "My dog! Somebody, please, help me catch my dog!" Suddenly, a big dog was licking his face. Sebastian had to grab him to keep from falling down. This dog goes by and he licks Sebastian's face. Sebastian grabs him to keep from falling down. And just then the dog started to run, and somehow Sebastian managed to hold on to the leash. What happened next is something Sebastian could never have imagined. He skated as if he were a water skier, gliding gracefully behind the big dog. See, there's a woman chasing the dog. There's a man carrying a ladder. There's a woman chasing the dog. Sebastian is now grabbed onto the leash, and he's being pulled along by the dog. Boy, I bet that's fun. Maybe if you don't have a dog that comes along, maybe your daddy could pull you. I bet he could do that. Just pull you at the rope and you could skate behind him. They crossed the bridge over the pond. They crossed the path that led to the grove. They crossed the playground with the swings. They even jumped over a ditch where workers were repairing a pipe. Sebastian kept his balance the whole time until finally the dog stopped running. Wow, he's even skating on the dirt. That's pretty impressive. The dog's owner came for her dog, but Sebastian just stood there. He'd skated through practically the whole park. He could hardly believe it. So suddenly, he's a lot better skater. There's the words, and here's the picture. When he got back to his apartment building, a neighbor was waiting for the elevator. How are things, Sebastian?" the neighbor asked. See, they're waiting for the elevator. Normally, Sebastian would just look at his feet and say, "Fine." At first, Sebastian didn't say anything. He started to shrug like he usually did, but then he stopped. His face brightened, and he answered without thinking, "Great! I'm learning how to roller skate." Oh, he suddenly got a personality. He's talking in sentences. That's wonderful. There are the words. The next day was Saturday, and Sebastian spent the whole morning skating without ever worrying about falling down. He skated through the whole park, and even though he did fall down twice, both times he got up right away and kept on skating. Here he goes. Oh, this little duck swimming by. Now we're back at school again. Oh, let's see. Here are the words. When Sebastian left the barber shop. Oh, let me see. I almost skipped a page. No wonder it didn't look right. Here are the words. Here's what we're saying. Here's Sebastian. He's at the barber shop again. Sebastian began to worry less about other things, too. When he had to go to the barber shop again, and the barber asked, "How's school?" Sebastian did not lower his eyes or answer in a whisper. Instead, he just opened his mouth. "I know the names of all the most important deserts of the world and where they are. The Sahara in Africa, the Gobi in Asia, and the Atacama in South America." "How about that?" smiled the barber in surprise. "And this time, I don't want my head to look like a billiard ball." So he's confident enough that he's telling the barber he doesn't want the barber to shave his head and make it look like a billiard ball. Here are the words. When Sebastian left the barber shop, he could hardly believe what he had done. He had a lot to say, and he had said it. So now, when the teacher asked, "Let's see who knows the names of the tallest mountains in the world," Sebastian was put up his hand and answer, "Mount Everest, Kogir, and Kanchenjunga." Those are the three tallest mountains of the world. Mount Everest, Kogir, and Kanchenjunga. Wow. Now he talks in class. Everybody knows that he's really pretty smart. Oh, look at those hearts. We see little hearts here. I bet you girls know what's going to happen next, don't you? Well, I'll read it to you. He still had something else he wanted to do, though. So one afternoon, when he saw Esther, the little girl with the curly hair, he made up his mind. He didn't fall very much anymore when he skated, and sometimes when he had a lot to say, he said it. So he walked over to Esther and asked with a smile, "Would you like to go skating with me?" And guess what? Esther was a little bit shy, but she did whisper, "Yes, yes." That's so sweet. Look, got blonde hair just like a little girl I know, except Lucy's hair isn't so curly as that. Here are the words, here are the picture. Well, look at all this interesting pictures and artwork here. There he is skating. Sebastian went home feeling very happy. He broke his piggy bank and ran to the store to buy himself a new pair of skates. Then he went to the park and returned the old roller skates to the same bench where he had found them. Look at that. Here's Grandmommy.
Are you almost
Say hi to the girls.
Hi.
Hi. Okay, I'm almost finished. I'm reading about Sebastian and the roller skates. There your Grandmommy's coming in to check on me. She wants to make sure I'm doing okay. So here we go. I'm gonna start back again. Here we go on this page. Sebastian went home feeling very happy. He broke his piggy bank and ran to the store to buy himself a new pair of skates. Then he went to the park, returned the old roller skates to the same bench where he had found them. He thought maybe somebody else who didn't talk very much, even when they had a lot to say, might also like to learn how to skate. Well, isn't that nice? You know what? Sometimes, and that's the end. There's Esther and there's Sebastian skating. Sometimes kids are very shy because they don't have a lot of confidence. It really helps if someone comes along and speaks to them. Esther, we learned, also is shy. But when Sebastian spoke to her, it made her so happy. And she said yes, she wanted to go roller skating with them. So always good to pick out somebody in class who seems kind of shy and doesn't have a friend, and then you can go and be their friend. And that's the end of the story. That's a lesson for the day. I hope you enjoyed this story. I liked reading it. I liked Sebastian. I liked the look on his face. And I could tell he's going to be very successful in life. The end.